leadership, workplace mental health, entrepreneurship. This is Victory Leaders Lounge. Welcome to another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. My name is JJ Hardy, and I have a guest here. His name is Steve Kidd. He does a whole lot of things, but I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself, and then we're going to go into a little bit about his story.
All right. Of course, my phone just went crazy.
Well, I thought we had a musical interlude going on here.
So did I, yeah. No, I liked yours way better than the one that I had going. My name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, international best-selling author of 22 books and counting. I have the privilege of getting to work with folks, helping them write, publish, and most importantly, market their books to bestseller. I have been a marketing company since the mid-'80s, in digital space since literally before the internet existed. And over the course of the last almost 17 years now, I've worked with just shy of 5,000 authors, helping them in the process and helping them think about not only just how can they market themselves, but how can they make the world a better place.
I love that. And I mean, anyone who decides to go out there and start something on their own, I would hope that unless they're just like selling stuff on Etsy, I would hope that that's their goal, is to make the world a better place. With leadership, that's definitely my goal. So your journey kind of resonates with me a little bit. That's awesome. So yeah. So tell us a little bit of, why you do what you do, and kind of maybe a little bit about your journey. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, if we want to go way back to the very beginning, we really literally could. When I was 5 years old, it's kind of a fun story actually for me. My parents had bought, my brothers are both older than I am, and they had bought for them some greeting cards to be able to sell door to door. My brothers discovered very quickly that they were not really excited about the concept of sales. And being the, impetuous, whatever the right word is, 5-year-old that I was, I said, hey, can I sell them? And I'm sure my parents were assuming that, I'd go out and get bored real quick. And my brothers were angry with me because I kept going to houses that had already told them no and getting the people to buy stuff anyway. It's really easy to sell when you're 5. All you got to do is just be cute,
Yeah.
That's why the Girl Scouts always get us every year. And that was the beginning of my sales journey. I was a sales manager by 19, had my own company, really basically by I was 20, and I've been self-employed ever since. I love the concept of selling and marketing and those kind of things. And then in 2007, my second youngest daughter and my then wife were blogging about a trip they took to go see the filming locations for the movie Twilight. And I helped them turn that into a book. And with the marketing that we did for it, it actually at one point was the best-selling movie-related travel guide on Amazon. And that was where I discovered the power of the phrase bestseller or best-selling author in your marketing.
Okay. Wow. So even before, so I can be clear on this. So even before it's a bestseller, you market it as a bestseller, and it's almost like speaking it into existence, and it just happens.
Well, yes, but I always immediately begin referring to it as a bestseller because bestseller, I even wrote about this in my own personal 20th book. Bestseller is a day one. It's a launch strategy. Done right, your marketing set up right, your book will be a bestseller on Amazon on day one. And if it isn't, then it really means that you need some help to know how to be able to market a book. It's like really, graduating from medical school, then you get to learn how to be a doctor. It's very much that same kind of thing these days.
Interesting. If you don't mind me asking, what is I'd like to put a little banner on here for my audience on social media. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, of course, the easiest thing, if they're interested in doing a book, I've even got it in my ID there. You can just simply go to askstevekidd.com, and that goes straight to my calendar. If you want more information, thrivingbestsellers.com is the name of the website, and we talk in there about our done for you, done with you, and taught to you, as well as marketing you programs.
Interesting. For information. I think that's great. I want to make sure that we have both ways for people to learn about you on here, because I think that's amazing. I mean, if you really are that confident to be able to go out there and make sure you're getting these people what they need. I mean, if it's a good book and it deserves to be number one, then I think that people should deserve to go out there and do it. Girl Scout. Oh, someone put on here, Girl Scouts get me for Thin Mints.
Every year. Oh yeah.
Every single time. For me, it's those I can't even remember what they're called, but it's those butter cookies. The anyway,
Oh,
no,
I know which ones you're talking about. I don't remember the names of them.
shortbread. The shortbread cookies.
Yeah.
Yes, yum. But no, it's hard to say no to the Girl Scouts. So what gave you, other than, is it just your love for sales, or what gave you a passion for what you do to be able to go out there and put so much effort into it to make other people successful the way you've been able to?
Well, I love people. I mean, absolutely. And I love sharing their stories. I believe very strongly that all of us have a plan and a purpose for our lives. Um, and that starts by sharing it. You know, who you are is only as good as you give it away.
Mm,
Not that you can't do a lot of really great stuff yourself, and I'm not asking anybody to demean or diminish themselves, but our skills and our talents are only good when we use them. You know, I mean, if you happen to be a great carpenter and you just sit there in a chair and dream about building a piece of furniture, I mean, it doesn't even do you any good, let alone anybody else, you know, and that very much especially becomes true when it's the experiences we've had in life, the stories, our imagination, all those kind of things. And so I love, love, love sharing those with the world.
wow. That's a lot more profound than just going out there and being a successful 5-year-old marketing little cards and helping people with market their books today. That's really amazing. And I completely agree. I feel like, everybody does have a purpose, and some people, especially since COVID, I should say a lot of people are kind of stuck in that mentality that, they were stuck in their house for so long. Now they don't feel like they're as marketable as they could be. And then the younger generation, they're saying, screw that. I'm going to go out there and get as many jobs as I can and bounce around from place to place and make myself successful. But people are still struggling with mental health and everything else. And so the statement that you made about sitting on the couch and not doing anything with your talents, it's a little bit deeper to me than just not going out there to do what God, really invented us to do, because we all have a purpose. We just may not understand what that purpose is yet. And yeah, how amazing is that? I do that through leadership training and stuff like that. So I think that people struggle in the workplace, or they bounce around so much because they don't necessarily leave the businesses. They leave the managers that work in those businesses, and so that struggle can be solved, I think, through the idea of servant leadership, and so I'm trying to spread that good word as well. But you're doing it through helping them be successful. I mean, I would say that the number one difficulty that most small to medium-sized businesses have is getting people to see their services or products and hopefully buy them once they do see them. And so the sales and marketing, it seems like that's what you are good at, and then that's what you help people with. And so, gosh, your door is probably being banged down if you're out there advertising yourself the right way.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's super, super valuable, because you're literally touching on that one thing that everybody is struggling with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, last month we talked on social media. I had a conversation going ongoingly with my followers about really understanding your passion. You know, what is the why behind, even something as simple as constantly telling your children, clean up your room, clean up your room, clean up your room. Is it just that you're a tyrant, or is there really a purpose, a passion behind that? And then this month we've been talking a lot about what is the purpose for that passion. Why are you passionate about that, and how can you then use that unique amazingness that is yours to do that thing that, frankly, if you don't do it, nobody else can.
Mm, that's true. That is so true. And when it comes to why, I think it's even deeper than that, right? I mean, we all have these things that we enjoy doing, and a lot of these things that we enjoy doing, we could actually go out there and make a business out of it. Because I mean, even something so small as gardening. I was reading an article the other day where this person didn't even understand how great they were at gardening and how much they could benefit the world. All they really did was go around and they would give their friends advice here and friends advice here, and that turned into a marketing thing because it ended up being a ripple effect. Well, they didn't even think that that would be a profitable coaching business, but it turned into one very quickly. The hardest thing that they had to do with the whole thing was figure out what to charge people, and then boom, boom, boom. And how wonderful is that if you already have a network of people that will put you out there, because it also takes a community to make sure that you are marketing your services to already existing happy customers, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just curious, for somebody who is starting a business. I mean, obviously you've been in yours and you have a couple things that you're working on a regular basis. What would be your number one piece of advice to give any new entrepreneur, from especially a sales and marketing perspective, while they're struggling trying to figure out how to how to get their new business going?
That's one of the reasons why I really love being in the book space and helping people, both write, publish, and market their books. There is something really kind of cool that comes out of it. I do with all the clients that I work with, we actually do it via interview. So we would jump on a call similar to this or on Zoom or things like that. And my whole goal is just to get them talking. Just tell me about you, the thing you do, the stuff you want to teach. I've even worked with people who are brand new and have no idea what they want their business to be, but there's some really cool stuff that comes out when I dig into, again, that passion and purpose that we were talking about in there. And that helps you begin to frame, who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. More importantly, maybe even who's it for and what do they need,
Hmm.
which is where we really first start, is who's going to read this and what does that person really need. um, but then we can write with that by publishing it and making it a bestseller. I have a 100% success rate making folks bestsellers. The marketing language of, when we go into basic marketing beyond that, you're going to typically have a free giveaway. That's where we start our relationship with people. Go to my webpage, give me your email, I'll give you a free gift of some sort. I mean, it's usually, a page or two of information or stuff like that. But when we can say, what I'd like to give you is this guide or even my book that's best, based off of the best selling book on this thing. It's just marketing wise, of course, the languaging is huge, but it also has just immediately intrinsically more value for the person than just the next web page that you came to that asks you for your email address so you can download something for free.
Mm, interesting. So the advice that I'm seeing in there is make sure you're super super clear on what you're doing and how to get it out there. You said something very it made it very clear to me when you were talking about, when you're sitting down and talking to people one on one, how you get them clear on not only what they want to write their book about, but who the right person would be to read that book. And it seems
Yes.
that, I mean, the language that most entrepreneurs hear when it comes to something like that is, identifying your product and your target market.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you're clear on how to do that to make it so that they can make a whole book out of it, okay,
Right.
that's so how to. I'm just curious to hear more about that. evaluation process, because I think that there's a lesson to be learned there.
And that's where we start. We always start with that strategy. And the first question in the strategy is really the who. Who are we talking to? I learned from a good friend of mine who used to be one of the marketing directors for Nike back when I lived in that part of the world. And, what Nike does, I mean, Nike's not going to bring out a product unless they intend to sell millions of it. They're not going to bring out a product that, they might sell 20 or 30 of them. They don't have the time or the desire to do that. However, before they bring out any product, they have little rooms on their campus there in Beaverton, Oregon, that they set aside, and one of the marketing teams will go in there and they will build a complete avatar, top to bottom. It's a 6 week to 2 month sometimes process. They want to identify this person down to a single individual. They'll have a drawing or a composite of some sort that is actually that person, and they want to get to know them well enough. They could even go out to lunch to that person's favorite restaurant, tell you what would they order, what would they be wearing, where would they sit, what would they say in the conversation, what kind of comments would they make. When we know the person that well, then we really, first of all, have all the answers, because if somebody invites you to come someplace and that person's going to be there, then it's an easy yes. And if they're not going to be there, then it's actually pretty easy no for that invitation as well. But it also helps us really, even more than that, really identify that person specifically, so that we then know what do they need. A lot of times, if you don't mind my going on just a little bit more,
Sure.
a lot of times when I ask a person, well, who's your ideal reader, or who's your ideal client, that kind of a thing, they're usually going to say something like, well, it's a lady between 20 and 50 years old, and I immediately stop them, because those of us that have lived from 20 to 50 plus, we know just how different life is from when you're a 20-year-old to when you're a 50-year-old. And so we dig down deep into, how exactly old is she? Is she married or single? Does she have children? What age are her kids? Have they gone to school, or are they still at home? All of those kind of things, so that when we get to that specific. Now, the other magical cool thing about that is when we focus on that one person and the one thing that we can do to help them, it makes the whole process a lot easier. Because whether you're talking about marketing widgets or you're talking about writing a book, we get overwhelmed by the millions, by I want to make sure that this is something that appeals to everybody, rather than just trying to meet the needs of that one specific person. And in marketing, what we find actually is the more specific we are, the more people will actually reach.
How interesting. That's hard to think about, though, isn't it? I would say that even for me, that's probably a pain point I have in my business, because though I think that my target market is, I focused all the way down to that execution level employee that just hates every manager that they've ever had. That's obviously not who I'm marketing to. But, if I can get to the person that those people work for, then that is who I want to talk to. And, I know what you just got done saying, but that person really, really could be from 25 to 50. They really could. And the reason I say that is because that person who is that first time leader that has worked for a bunch of companies, and I would say they're still a first time leader if they've never had any training, because they don't understand. They probably at one time understood very well how to do the job that they were doing. And so somebody said, you know what, we're going to make this person a supervisor. And then that person probably went from supervisor to manager, but then they never invested in that person. They never sat them aside, gave them some mentorship, put them through the process of understanding what it takes to inspire another human being, because that's what it takes to keep them on your team. And I think a lot of people that are even at the senior level probably don't know how to do that. And so when it comes to figuring out your target market, you got my wheels spinning like crazy right now. And I didn't mean to go on about me because this podcast is really about my guest, but I think your value proposition just hit home with me pretty hard.
Well, but you are you're the perfect example for the person that's listening. I totally hear what you're saying about it could be a 25-year-old, it could be a 50-year-old, but typically speaking, when we take a person who's 25 and is a manager, they're what you said, first time manager, their problems tend to be that they're all theory with no execution,
Sure.
typically. Okay, now
Sure.
I'm oversimplifying and kind of mass grouping, but that is the typical 25-year-old. He's got a
Yes.
great education, he's got a little bit of experience, and he showed some promise, and the company promoted him possibly even too soon. And then they for sure didn't give him, but that's where he is. The 50-year-old, on the other hand, usually is somebody who, at the job they were doing, the people that they're now managing, they were kind of an expert at it. They had done it for 20, 30 years. And it got to the point where the company said, hey, this guy really knows how to do that job. What if we could duplicate him by having 5 or 6 of him? And so let's promote him to manager. And then the company, of course, drops the ball and just thinks that magically he's going to somehow, put himself on the Xerox machine and duplicate himself. Um, uh, you know, but it's a totally different thing, because also the 25-year-old these days typically is not going to be married. And is probably living in a roommate situation these days with the way the economy is and stuff. Whereas the 50-year-old, he probably has a kid that's either in upper junior high or in high school. He's starting to look at college expenses and
Oh
all
yeah.
of those kind of things, and or he's gone through a divorce. And so when we look at all those individual different things, then we can talk really specifically to him. Because even if you talk a 50-year-old, you talk the guy who's, a dad and really a good dad versus the 50-year-old who has never had kids and never would want to have them. The conversation you have with those two people are totally different things because, the 50-year-old who has no children, the concept of talking about working a little more in hours, short term to be able to gain some skills is something that if they embrace it, they can do. Whereas the person who has several children at home, that could become a near impossibility. They already feel like they're failing their kids, and now you're asking for them to sacrifice more of their family. And so it's then in those nuances in each one of those kind of things that we can then be very specific in how we talk to the person. I know what it's like when you're sitting at work and you're frustrated because your boss isn't giving you the information, and you know that the recital is already started for your son, and you promised him you'd be there because you weren't there last time, and you told yourself no matter what it took, even if you had to quit your job, you're going to make this recital. And there you are sitting at your desk doing this project that you don't really know how to do because you never really got the training on how to do this part of managing. See, that's really specific languaging. And that guy's going to go, yeah, that's me. Totally gotcha.
It's interesting that you mention it that way. I would say that the younger audience, even up to probably the mid 30s, they're a lot harder to do that initial sell to. But those older guys that you're referring to, the ones that are probably maybe a little bit younger than me to your age group, you did age yourself. I'm just not going to put a number on what I think. But I would say that we see the value in it a lot more. Oh, really? You can help me unlock something that I can do differently to help everybody out. Well, yeah, but the younger crowd, for some reason, maybe it's that hero complex or whatever it is, but very quickly they go into, oh, this guy's just trying to sell me something, and they move on. And at the end of the day, yeah, of course, I got to put food on the table for my family. But the real goal here is to help you help other people, and for them to not hate you, and for you to not say that you're doing everything for them, and just avoiding this back and forth thing that happens when you're a brand new manager, or even sometimes if you go from executing a job to being a director. I've seen that before too. And, it's not really rocket science. It's basic leadership, basic mindset, and educating the masses on that would make the workforce much more tolerable for those guys that hate getting up every morning because they know that they're just going to be pushed around and told what to do and ignored and feeling like they're on an island because nobody listens to them and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, with the younger guy, with the 25-year-old, you're absolutely right. When we pitch him that way, he's just like, you're just trying to pitch me. I'm not interested at all. Whereas with the younger guy, if we talk about what a superstar you are, that it's right there inside of you, and I know I can help you get that thing that you want to do. When you start stroking their ego and you start talking about how amazing they are and how we're going to bring that out on them, now the 25-year-old, the 55-year-old, he's like, yeah, I mean, my ego's taken enough hits these days. I just want to be a good dad. The 25-year-old's like, yeah, okay, show me where my cape is because I'm ready to be Superman.
Yes, and he's doing one of these numbers.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Yeah, like the Heisman Trophy thing.
Like
Yeah.
a Heisman thing. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, and I know I went into stuff about me, but I think it turned into a really good conversation. I mean, we're getting kind of towards the end here. I try to keep my live streams and my podcast down to about 30 minutes, but I have to ask you, Steve, if there is a message that you could share. If there's a message that you could share with the entire group of people that I have in my social media audience, what would that message be?
Somebody's waiting on you for the person that you can and are meant to serve. They're waiting for you to bring out the answer. The way that you'll say it, even though they may have heard it a million different times, the way that you'll say it will resonate with them. And all of a sudden, the light bulb will go on. And if you don't say it, they may never get it. It's kind of like, we'll go back to, kids. It's kind of like when you tell your child the same thing over and over and over again, and then they come home from school one day and they're like, guess what Mrs. So-and-so taught us? And you want to just pull your hair out because you've been saying this to them for years and they've rolled their eyes at you. And now it's this amazing new thing that they've learned because that somebody said it in a way that got through to them. Somebody's waiting on you. And without you sharing who you are, your message with the world, your book, those kind of things, that person doesn't have the answer that they need.
That is extremely powerful. I keep on saying that. We need to stay on the line after we're done broadcasting to everybody so we can chat for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely.
But I completely agree. And, just to I'm not trying to steal your light there, but just to add to that, I think people need to hear it. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it. I would just go in my normal like and subscribe stuff, which I'll say here in a second. But if you really have something that you feel needs to be said into the world and you are doing what Steve said earlier in this call and just kind of sitting on your couch wishing you could do all of these things, well, guess what? Wishing and dreaming means absolutely nothing if you don't take massive freaking action. Do something about it. Get your word out there. If you try and fail, at least you tried. But if you try and succeed, you just learn something about yourself, and you just learn that people have the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you do. So don't be afraid of that. You should embrace that. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That's why I enjoy being an entrepreneur. And that's why I enjoy talking to people like this guy. Well, I guess right next to me, even though we're thousands of miles away, probably. But if this information resonates with you, please like this, subscribe to it, share it, repost it. But if you really want to make a difference here, keep the conversation going by commenting below. And I know there's a Facebook user who's been commenting, and thank you for participating in this. I'll make sure I reply to all of your comments because, yes, you've been reinforcing everything we've been saying about better specifying your audience. If you don't have your message and your who locked in, you're spinning your wheels. I completely agree with you, and I'll make sure I comment to that after the call. But thank you, Steve, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Absolutely. When you said you wanted to be a guest and you said what you did, I knew people just needed to hear what you had to say. And thank you, everybody listening to this call or watching this call, depending on what platform you're on. And please keep on keeping on. Have a good day.